Jorgensen on Fuel TV.
The Octagon is back in Las Vegas, Nevada from the Mandalay Bay Event Center. In the main event, it's the number 2 ranked California kid, Uriah Faber, fighting fellow 135-pounder and longtime friend in 7th ranked Scott Jorgensen. In the finals of the Ultimate Fighter Middleweight tournament, phenomenal knockout artist Uriah Hall will go toe-to-toe with the young gun, 21-year-old Kelvin Gastelum. And the number 1 ranked women's bantamweight, Miesha Tate, fights number 4 Kat Zingano. The winner will earn the right to coach against and fight the champion, Ronda Rousey. All the action goes down inside the Octagon tomorrow. But today, the fighters will step up to the scale for the UFC weigh-in live on Fuel TV.
Two of the best bantamweights in the world have arrived for their weigh-ins at the MGM in Las Vegas. Number 2, Uriah Faber, and number 7, Scott Jorgensen. They've been friends for years, but tomorrow they'll put personal feelings aside and get down to business inside the Octagon. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ultimate Fighter Finale weigh-in on Fuel TV. I'm Karen Bryant, sitting here alongside UFC Bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz and middleweight superstar Michael Bisping. Speaking of whom, you've got a big fight coming up in a couple weeks at 159 against Alan Belcher.
That's right, April 27th, Alan Belcher. This is a guy that's been calling me out for 5 years now. And I can't wait to fight him. He's been saying some pretty nasty things about me, so...
Whoa, bad things about you?
Bad things about me, I can't believe it. You know, this face, how he can say things about me, I don't know.
You always say the nicest things about people.
The nicest things, but let it be known, I am ready, and we're going to fight.
It baffles me.
Well, talking about saying nice things, you always are so complimentary of Uriah Faber. And he's taking on Scott Jorgensen tomorrow. Both guys in your division. You're keeping an eye on this, obviously.
Yeah, this is going to be an outstanding fight. And this is a huge opportunity for Jorgensen. Let's not forget that. He's fighting the number 2 guy in the bantamweight division, and he's ranked number 7. So he goes and beats a guy like Faber. He's got a case to fight for the title in the near future.
Right. Well, it is the main event tomorrow night as the California kid takes on friend and former training partner Scott Jorgensen. Interestingly enough, this is not the first time the matchmakers have tried to pair these guys up. So, Dominic, let's talk about Uriah. What does he bring into this fight?
You know, he brings a very well-rounded style to the game. He's very explosive from the outside with overhand rights and uppercuts. And that's something he's really changed his game with. He's very threatening standing up in the boxing realm also. But at the same time, he's a great counter wrestler. He'll wait for you to shoot, and when you do so, he's looking for all kinds of submissions, ways to take your back, ways to land the guillotines, and ways to control you from the top position with raining down elbows from the top. Those are all things he does very well and has gotten 22 out of 27 wins by doing that and finishes.
Well, let's talk about his opponent. Scott Jorgensen coming off an impressive win over John Albert in December. What do you think he's bringing to the fight?
Well, Uriah Faber is number 2, Jorgensen is number 7. He's no slouch. He actually has the most wins in the history of the bantamweight division in the UFC and the WEC. He stops 75% of his takedowns, very busy striker, has the second most submission attempts in the history of the UFC, so he's not slouch, you know, it's going to be a close fight.
And a fast-paced fight, I believe,
Absolutely,
as well.
100%.
Well, right now we're going to toss it to the 4th member of our team, Heidi Andral. She's got more in this great Ultimate Fighter finale. Heidi?
Coming to you from the Hollywood Theater here at the MGM Grand as we gear up for the weigh-in. Lots going on this weekend as we gear up for the Ultimate Fighter finale. Here are the 2 things you need to know. Number 1, the Ultimate Fighter 17 has made its way from 28 contestants to its final matchup. Now, both members of Team Sun, and it will be the 11th time in Ultimate Fighter history that 2 teammates from the house will fight. The final 2 include striking sensation Uriah Hall, the man Dana White called the most feared man coming out of the Ultimate Fighter house ever. His opponent, Kelvin Gastelum, the youngest fighter in Ultimate Fighter history with a record of 5-0. One man will be crowned the 28th winner of the UFC's reality show and go home with the guaranteed 6-figure UFC contract. Number 2, it's Vegas, and the stakes are high for the ladies this weekend. Miesha Tate and Kat Zingano will be the 2nd ever UFC women's fight and will be the first women's fight on the Fox family of networks. The winner, of course, winning a coaching spot opposite Ronda Rousey for the next Ultimate Fighter, and a title shot against her for the women's 130 135-pound belt. All right, lots happening here at the weigh-in. For now, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you very much, Heidi, and we will be seeing Heidi again during the weigh-in show, along with Dominic and Michael popping up from time to time with interesting tidbits on some of tomorrow's Ultimate Fighter finale competitors. But right now, it is time to ask our Twitter poll question. A new Ultimate Fighter champion will be crowned tomorrow, so we want to know who you think that will be. Uriah Hall or Kelvin Gastelum? You can vote using the hashtag Team Hall or hashtag Team Kelvin. We're going to have the results later on in the show. Well, coming up after the break, Uriah Faber, Scott Jorgensen, the Ultimate Fighter finalists, and the rest of the fighters step up to the scale. John Anik is on the call when we return. This is the Ultimate Fighter finale weigh-in on Fuel TV.
What's up, folks? It's great to be back home here in Las Vegas. Our Octagon girls, Vanessa Hansen and Chrissy Hubbard. UFC President Dana White is in the building. Our matchmaker is Joe Silva. The veteran voice of the Octagon is Bruce Buffer, and the inimitable Burt Watson is here as well. Let's get things going. Our first prelim in the featherweight division. Justin, the American Kid Lawrence, versus Daniel, the Pit Pineda. First fighter to the scale, Daniel Pineda. For Daniel Pineda and his opponent Justin Lawrence. Great night.
Justin Lawrence, the guy I train with on Team Cruise, and I know him very well. He comes from a wrestling background, and he's got a power-based style. Look for him to use his boxing techniques to set up his powerful high kicks, and he's got one of the best left hooks in the game. Be looking for a knockout, people.
right, our next bout also in the featherweight division, Sam Sicilia versus Maximo Blanco.
Next week, the UFC returns to Fox as lightweight champion Benson Henderson puts his title on the line against #1 contender Gilbert Melendez. That's highlighting an epic night of fights. Henderson versus Melendez for the lightweight title. Fox UFC Saturday starts next Saturday night at 8 p.m.
Nope, 147.
147 for Maximo Blanco.
Maximo, too high. Too max.
1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour.
Blanco has 1 hour to cut the final pound. And his opponent, Sam Sicilia.
Sam Sicilia was a guy that I coached on Team Cruise. He's extremely durable. He likes to throw non-stop power hooks to knock your head off and to close the distance. That way he can create the grappling scrambles to wear you down and eventually get that knockout that he's looking for.
$146.
146 for Sam Sicilia. And our next bout also in the featherweight division, Cole Magrino Miller versus Bart Barnabas Palashevsky.
$145.
145 for Bart Palashevsky. And his opponent, Cole Miller.
Cole Miller coming off of a loss and a slew of injuries. He said, yeah, this is make it or break it. He said, loser goes home. He doesn't want to be unemployed. He said that he's over the injuries. He's over the losses. He's not going to say there's not pressure, but he's ready to go.
That wristband will be the difference. Well, it's a tad over. Get you right to take off that wristband. Here's a pound over. Let's see. Might be in the same boat as the last guy, but we'll see. 146.
146 for Cole Miller.
This is the archetypal rock sound.
And now we move along to the Ultimate Fighter finale prelims on Fuel TV. First up in the middleweight division, Clint Hester versus Bristol Marunde.
$185 and a half.
185 and a hook for Bristol Marunde. And his opponent, also making his UFC debut, Clint Hester.
play. 185.
185 for Clint Hester.
Don.
All right, staying in the middleweight division, Dylan the Villain Andrews versus Jimmy Quinlan. $185 for Methuen's finest, Jimmy Quinlan. And his opponent, Dylan Andrews. $186 for Dylan Andrews. All right, our next bout also in the middleweight division, Luke Barnett versus Colin Hart. First fighter to the scale is Colin Hart.
Well, Colin Hart trains with David Terrell. He is a former UFC fighter, of course, and BJJ black belt. Colin said that he actually met him because the gym is right by his house. He said that teams made him stronger, and David's like a brother to him. They camp and they barbecue, and there's never been any bad blood in the gym.
$184.5.
$184.5 for Colin Hart. And his opponent, Luke Barnett.
Luke, the big slow Barnett, the former accountant. We all saw him on The Ultimate Fighter. After that, he stalked me on the internet, found me in Orange County, came down to train with me. I showed him some good old-fashioned hospitality, took him to the gym, beat him up a little bit, made him breakfast the next day, and then sent him on his way.
$185 for Luke Barnett. Staying in the middleweight division, this bout also yours on Fuel TV. Josh the Man versus Kevin Casey.
Well, Kevin Casey dates a girl with a pretty famous last name. That would be Hannah Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter. He said the first time he met Muhammad Ali, it was Thanksgiving, and he was actually playing cards, sitting around with who else but Ken Norton. He said it was like being in a weird time warp. Imagine going home to meet the dad, and it's Muhammad Ali.
$185 for Kevin Casey. And his opponent, Josh the Man. $184.5 for Josh the Man. the Menace McDaniel versus Gilbert Jamal Smith.
All right, Joseph Mason on the ad with that. Mike Weber, too.
$185 for Gilbert Smith. And his opponent, Bubba McDaniel. $184 and a hook for Bubba McDaniel. And that is the first fight on the main card on FX. How about a hand, Bubba McDaniel and Gilbert Jamal Smith. All right, our next bout in the UFC's heavyweight division, Travis Hoppa Brown versus Gabriel Navarro Gonzaga.
Next week, the UFC returns to Fox as lightweight champion Benson Henderson puts his title on the line against #1 contender Gilbert Melendez. That's highlighting an epic night of fights. Henderson versus Melendez for the lightweight title. Fox UFC Saturday starts next Saturday night at 8 p.m.
Much more than that, Bert. 261.
261 for Gabriel Gonzaga. And his opponent, Travis Brown.
Travis Hopper Brown, 6'7", with a professional record of 13-1-1, with his only loss coming at the hands of Antonio Silva in his last fight out. Interesting note about that fight, he actually tore a muscle in his leg in the opening seconds, which no doubt impacted the result of that fight. Look for him to get back to winning ways against the always tough Gabriel Gonzaga.
$239 for Travis Brown. All right, now we move along to the second women's fight in UFC history in the women's bantamweight division. Miesha Tate versus Kat Zingano.
Kat Zingano had lost her mother to cancer. She was a new single mom. She was looking to lose the baby weight. Her former wrestling coach invited her down to a gym. She walked in. She was intrigued by what she saw, not just the sport of MMA, but the man on the mat. That was Mauricio Zingano. He's now her husband and has since adopted her son.
136.
136 for Kat Zingano. And her opponent, the former Strikeforce champion, Miesha Tate.
135 and a half.
135 and a half for Miesha Tate. That fight to determine the #1 contender, Kat Zingano versus Miesha Tate. And now we get to our Ultimate Fighter final in the middleweight division. Uriah Hall versus Kelvin Gastelum. First fighter to the scale is Kelvin Gastelum.
Gastelum was Sonnen's last pick, and he would be known as the youngest tough competitor to ever be a finalist if he goes out there and beats Hall. Look for him to keep a pressure-forward style with power punches, use his grappling and his durability and his high pace to wear down Uriah Hall. This is going to be an outstanding fight. Keep a lookout for the knockout.
You go commando right now? You can go commando there, Bernie. He's very close. He's 185. He's a little over 186. Keep a tad over. There you go, man. There you go. He'll be all right. He'll be all right once he gets back on, I think. 186.
186 for Kelvin Gastelum. And his opponent, Uriah Hall.
Uriah Hall, according to UFC President Dana White, the most intimidating man to come through the Ultimate Fighter yet. Knocked out 3 of his opponents on the Ultimate Fighter. 6 foot tall with an amazing 79-inch reach. This guy has the reach advantage over almost all of his opponents. Comes in with a lot of hype. Let's see what he does tomorrow night.
185 for Uriah Hall. And those are your finalists for the 6-figure UFC contract, Kelvin Gastelum and Uriah Hall. All right, now we take a closer look at the 2 men involved in tomorrow night's 5-round bantamweight main event.
He is the California Kid, Uriah Faber.
Scott Jorgensen is absolutely a legitimate threat to the title.
We know each other well, but time to put our friendship aside and beat the crap out of each other.
We're friends, but I've got no problem punching him in the face. You know, I want a victory.
Scott was actually at a rival college. I was coaching at UC Davis. Just basically said, hey, come out and train sometime, and just nudged him in the right direction.
He's the one that kind of planted the seed in my head to fight. I'm thankful for it, but it doesn't mean anything come fight night.
Having a relationship outside of the fight world isn't going to change too much in preparation. I know for a fact that Scotty's going to be trying to take my head off, and he can expect the same from me.
Oh! Man, that guy hits hard. It is all over!
This fight's going to be as physical as you can imagine.
It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out, dirty fight.
I feel like I'm going to have a little bit more speed, and he's got great jiu-jitsu game, but mine is going to be on a different level.
Spectacular performance by Uriah.
I pack a lot of power in my hands. You don't want to get hit by me.
Vicious shot by Jorgensen, and he finishes the fight.
Currently ranked number 3 in the world. I'm always in the title hunt. Tonight's gonna help cement that.
It's time for some new blood. I want a big shiny gold belt. So, you know, tonight I go in there and I earn that respect.
At this point, it's time to throw down.
We're gonna beat the hell out of each other and may the best man win.
First fighter to the scale, Scott Young Guns Jorgensen.
Scott Jorgensen had a trip to Hawaii planned with his girlfriend. When he got the call to fight Uriah Faber, he said the trip was off. He had to move everything to Las Vegas. The interesting part, though, it wasn't just any trip. He was going to propose, so he didn't let it stop him. He actually flew his girlfriend out to Vegas with her family. He rented a suite at the Cosmo, and she said yes.
135 and a half.
135 and a half for Scott Jorgensen. And his opponent, the former WEC featherweight champion, the California Kid, Uriah Faber.
still got one guy to come back. I'll stick around.
Uriah Faber's a guy that I know very well. I've fought him a couple times, as we all know. 22 of 27 of his wins come by finish. This guy likes to go out there, get the job done quickly. Look for him to keep a high pace, create counter scrambles from the wrestling in order to end up in the top position and rain down the elbows for the finish.
For Uriah Faber. And that is your main event live on FX. Scott Jorgensen and Uriah Faber.
Oh, perfect. We got one more guy to come back.
All right, thank you all for coming out. We hope to see you tomorrow night at the Mandalay Bay. If you are watching the UFC weigh-in on Fuel TV, plenty more coverage to come with Karen Bryant, UFC Bantamweight Champion Dominic Cruz, Michael Bisping, and Heidi Andro. We now send it back to Los Angeles, California. KB, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, John. Well, Dominic, they're two friends. They just had a stare down. Did you see any?